Yeah, very good morning. We will be a good afternoon in a few minutes. So I think we can start. So whatever, I think some of you may not know me, so that's why I need to give you my self introduction. Just a couple of words I will say for you. I'm Dr. Devashish Ponda. I'm also a coordinator of this program. I have done my PhD from IIT Kharagpur in 2011. After that, I have done my postdoc at National Chiao Tung University, Taiwan, and University of Utah, USA, and National University of Singapore. So then I joined here with National Institute of Science and Technology, Berhampur. I joined here in 2014. So I have a couple of publications also. People can find these things in Google Scholar or somewhere else in the internet. And this program, as I told you in the first day, during inauguration program, this program we will run in the 5 pages. This is the page 1. And here we are mostly focusing on the nano fabrication part and some silicon-based devices usually. And second page we will going to be organized as you already know, because I put it in your feedback form. It's 15 to 21. I request you all please join there, because this second page is not same as the first page. It will be fully different things. They are fully different speaker. All the speakers will be different. Maybe some speaker will be similar speaker, but not similar. They will speak something different. So I believe all of you will get benefited from this talk. And another 3 pages we will inform you shortly. So these are my short introduction. With this, I don't want to start my presentation, whatever or session, whatever I already mentioned in your schedule. Thin film technology we will discuss. So I think for better bandwidth, I can switch off my video and I can share my screen. So in these 2 days, we already passed 2 days and already not 2.5 days of the program of this program. There you people already learned a lot about the device fabrication, device characteristics, device measurements, and a lot of things. And I know some of you may not be cope up these things because of the some parts you may not know right now. So first thing yesterday, whatever Dr. Das was discussed, how to clean the samples or substrate. Because first priority is your sample, your device means your substrate. If your substrate is dirty, whatever some of you asked yesterday, we are using soap to clean the substrate. These things, if your substrate is dirty itself, substrate has a lot of particles. Our dust particles usually in the few microns or few millimeter order, whatever we can be able to see in our eyes, naked eyes, that is in few millimeters. Minimum size minimum size of the dust particle usually few micron. So if this dust particle lying on your substrate, then your thing or your device should not be visible, because we are looking for the device that should be the nano order, a few nanometer or few angstrom. The dust particle himself is a few microns, so that cannot be desirable. So if we use soap usually, soap that can make the substrate more dirty in my point, in my belief. So better don't touch the silicon wafer. Don't touch the silicon wafer. I repeat, don't touch the silicon wafer. That can be used directly. However, if you touch it, if your fingerprint is there, that device that will not work. So that should be touched with the tweezer. That should be touched with the tweezer, as well as your gloves should be in your hand. Otherwise, this sample cannot be work for the nanoparticles. Now I'm going to the thin film technology. Is after cleaning the substrate, that is your first part already Dr. Das already discussed. Then we will deposit or we will prepare the device. That we will make the device. That will be for that we need to deposit the sample. So these are my already deep, I already spoken in your at the beginning. This is my professional experiences. So I'm not going to these things. Yeah, this is the course object. What is the objective of this course? This course will provide a thin film deposition methods, their possibilities and their limitations. We will discuss several methods. Already chemical method already discussed by several people. Hydrothermal method discussed with that the morning day, and I will discuss some other methods. Virtual hands-on demonstration and experiments in the laboratories. Already we cannot do able to do these things because of the pandemic. That's why we are joining here virtually. Else we may join in the laboratory here. NIST has some facilities that would be good enough to show your demonstration or experiment. However, that's why we are doing virtual hands-on experiment, whatever your previous sessions and other sessions. They are trying to do, they have done a lot of work. They have captured the video, they have downloaded the videos, and those things they are giving you to give the flavor of the lab experiments. And of course, essential fundamental aspects and application. First thing, why we will learn the nanotechnology. So these three terms, health, wealth, and atoms. So all the related with the nanotechnology. Our health, our nowadays our medical system based on the nanotechnology. Wealth, jewelry, that is diamond, this is also nano. And atoms, these are the main role for all the nanotechnology. So what is the nanotechnology that can be seen? We can see we are playing with the atoms actually. We are playing with the atom. We are arranging the atoms in our own choice. That should be diversity, in precise way, and that should be the cost effective. These two three things we need to be taken care for the nanotechnology experiments or nanotechnology applications. You may know, some of you know this name, Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman, people are always known as he is the inventor of the nanoscience and nanotechnology. In December 1959, he presented a paper in the American conferences, and there he says a very famous word, that is the plenty of room at the bottom. Because in 1959, there are times people are already saturated with all the things, all the electronics that time, electronics. So Feynman considered that time the possibility of direct manipulation of the individual atoms as a more powerful form of the synthetic chemistry than those used at that time. So he already proposed, or he already give the light on we can play with the atoms, and that is what we are doing now. We are playing with the atoms, single atom, monoatomic layer, single. Sir, maybe Takamoto Somsar, he will discuss one day in atomic force microscopy. That is whatever we are doing in the playing with the atoms. So, however, whatever 1950s, Mr. Feynman, he proposed and he explained, gives a light on the nanotechnology. However, this one first books were proposed in the published in 1980s. That is based on the experiment and theory of the nanosystem by Barry Westland, a German scientist. And these books were republished in 1992. And in 2000, people are already recognized that nanoscience nanotechnology will be the future, and that's why all the governments and funding agencies, they took the National Nanotechnology Institute. Well, so now what is the overview? What we want to do today? Today we are wondering, or we are trying to do the arrangement of the atoms. Arrangements of the atoms. We are arranging the atoms in the ground, or we can say our research lab. These atoms we are atoms, we can say anywhere we can put. This is our goal. What is the goal? We can put the atoms anywhere, wherever we want. So if we create the atom, then what happens? We can get the properties of the atoms. That's why this nanotechnology is big challenging, and that can be go for atomic scale in the future. These are the things we forgot. So what is the applications or where we can do this? We can position the assembly, we can use the human beings, we can use the everywhere. This is our devices, this is our rockets and space science, this is medical science, everywhere we can use the nanoscience. This is the first, not first we can say, or yeah, we can say the first experimental observation of the nano science, we can say. This time they proposed not nano actually, this is micron order, but this is the first device fabricated by the scientist that is on the order of 100 microns only. That is very huge nowadays. We can fabricate a device in a few nanometer only. So how it is happening? The real crystal has broken. Yesterday some speaker shows you the how the crystals or silicon surface working. So suppose we can consider silicon surface as a 100 silicon surface. So it has some open arms. If we put the open arms, if we deposit something, if another atom comes close to this one, that can be bonded with each other, that will be form of the thin, and that will reconstruct the surface of the substrate. So this is the, I think, real topography of the some surface of the devices, some surface of the some. I think you people can say this is the highly polished surface. This is highly polished surface. So this is the actually the, if we suppose your floor or something, this is highly polished, but still there are this much roughness is there. That cannot be say, we can say this is polished. So for that reason, our device or whatever sir told you yesterday, Dr. Das, we need to polish the surface, because if this surface is himself has a top and crest up to 3 micron, this top and crest distance is 3 micron. We cannot make any device having nanometer size, because if we put a layer on it, suppose 1 nanometer, that can be here, that can be here. We cannot measure. So that's why surface topography of the device or material or substrate, that should be a very, very important parameter. So when we deposit some layer on the substrate, the key things important. 5 parameters are very important for this. One is the volume of the substrate, and that is second one is the deformation layer. Deformation layer means top layer. Just after top layer. That means this layer will give you the surface tension or surface stress. If the surface stress and surface tension is much more, we can get different type of device stresses. And then top layer, that is reaction layer. The top layer, upper surface, that is your adsorption layer. That is we call adsorption layer. That means where will that is the atomic arms are there, that is adsorption layer. And sometimes that is contamination layer. That's why yesterday sir told you we have to put HF dipping, hydrofluoric acid dipping for the silicon substrate, because of we need to remove this contamination layer. That should be usually a few angstrom or not nanometer. This should be few angstrom, 5 to 6 angstrom, 10 angstrom maximum. Hardly. This can be deposited by dilute hydrofluoric acid, that can be removed. So before we are depositing, we need to deposit the film. I will tell you what is film and after a few slides, or maybe some slides later. So this film will be deposited on the adsorption layer, and this adsorption layer based controlled by the reaction layer. So all the things are important for the device. So this is scientific area that can be used for the, as all of you know, I believe, that is angstrom to nanometer, surface physics to chemistry, techniques, a lot of things are there. Yeah, this is the development of the electronics. In 1950s, when Feynman that time proposed that is the atomic scale we can do something. So that time vacuum electronics was there. Vacuum, I think some of you already used the experiment on the vacuum tubes, vacuum diodes, etc. Then in about 80s or 75, microelectronics came. In 1990s, that time integrated microelectronics came. And now we are expecting or we are doing working on the molecular electronics because we are playing with the atoms. So at this stage, at the 2020s or so, yeah, I can say 2015, we are working on most of the development is going on the microelectronics, the molecular electronics. As I told, I already discussed a little bit about the film and film. All of us know very well, if you put keep a glass or maybe in your hand mirror or mobile or whatever, a smooth surface, keep it on the table for a couple of weeks or maybe in a couple of days only, in 1 week. Then what happens after a day, after a week? It will be, there is some dust layer will be there. This is called film actually. This is called film. And those are habituated with some cooking style cooking, and there is a inside the utensils there is a thin layer is that is called film. All of you know me, I believe. This film is not a thin film. This is a thick film. Because of this film thickness, this film thickness is a few, not few angstrom. It should be in the few micron. Usually, thick film thickness we can say 125, 12 micron to 62 micron. It's 12 micron to 62 micron. However, if the film thickness is 2 micron, less than 2 micron, or few angstrom order, then we can say this is film. Keep in mind, all the device fabrication, all the nanotechnology, we need film. Otherwise, we think film cannot work. Definitely bulk layer, there are some bulk layers, bulk particles, bulk things that can be, that may be a thin film. Sorry, that may be nano particles are there. Bulk powder, that may be nanoparticles are there. But this particle is not a, this particle, whenever we use for the application, we will use nano amount, small amount, a few nanoparticles. Otherwise, we cannot use. Well, however, the thickness of the film is not critical tool for classifying. But the technology for fabricating the film classifies whether the film is thin or thick. This is a very important part. If we not say, suppose we are depositing suppose few angstrom, we are maybe I will tell you in some day, maybe last day, maybe you will use suppose 200 micron layer of silicon dioxide. Yesterday, some speaker told you that we are doing the weight oxidation. In weight oxidation, we can get up to weight oxidation we do usually to make the very thick oxide layer. That is also thin. That is also thin. So this is also depend on the how you are fabricating this thing, how you are depositing this thing. Yeah. So what are the things? Only passive components like resistors and capacitors can be fabricated using film. Combination film circuits are made by depositing film capacitors on a non-conducting substrate like glass or ceramic and prefabricated active components. Yeah. So there are several procedures there, several methods are there for the thin film deposition. Usually, very well-known method is the vacuum evaporation sputtering. Sputtering usually two types: RF sputtering, radio frequency sputtering, and direct sputtering. DC control sputtering, direct current control sputtering. So these two things are very popular and very better, much cheaper than the other things. These are the whatever in the case of the physical things. Chemical process, whatever I mentioned here in the last, that is the much cheaper. This is the one of the best cheapest one. However, the chemical process has some drawbacks. That's why people are looking for the physical methods. Chemical process, definitely we can go for the large things, we can go for the very cheapest one, we can do without very, do not need too much funding. However, for all the physical methods, you need to so much funding because you need to continuously spend the amount of money. So I will cover some of them. Molecular DNA pages. That is one of the expensive one. You can say we are is quite expensive than the like the elephant. If you keep elephant in your home, this must be expensive like that. Atomic layer deposition. That is, the name himself says you can do atoms by atoms. You can deposit atoms by atoms. That's why I told you in the beginning. We are playing with the atoms. This can be, that is also very, very expensive and very, these two things is very hard to maintain. Because you need a lot of funds to maintain. Lot of research funds or lot of money you need for this maintaining. So that's why it's very difficult to get or difficult to keep in the lab. Definitely some labs have in India as well as in abroad, every good labs they have. Pulse laser deposition. That is the one of the beautiest of the cheapest one as well as the beautiest of the deposition. I will tell some of them. These portions usually we can say it's good, definitely good, but it's not very expensive as well. But this is not used for the commercial purposes. Yeah, solar cell purposes and other purposes we use, but for the device, for electronic device purposes, people are avoiding this. Well, yeah, solar cell, this is also nano part. Definitely that can be use your watch and your all the utensils, etc. They are usually electroplating. That is also thin film. So thin film depositions, thin film and deposition. Thin film is usually a monolayer. A monolayer, a single layer of several micrometers. Thin film properties may be different from those of the part. Usually, then why we can say we are saying that it's thin film? Thin film, usually we can say, if suppose we have the aluminium bulk material. Bulk means aluminium foil, aluminium your utensils, or copper. I think my screen is visible to you, right? Can you please mute yourself? Yeah. Right. So, yeah, if you have some aluminium oil or aluminium bulk means that is whatever in your hand you are getting usually. Copper foil, copper wire. That copper can conduct the current. Aluminium can conduct the current. Aluminium has some specific properties, some electronic properties. These properties will be varied if you get or thin layer of the aluminium. If you get the thin layer of the copper, it may not be the same electronic properties, same electrical properties. It may not be the same thermal properties, or as well as mechanical properties. All the properties, most of the properties will be varied if you go for the thin films of the same material. So that is the electronic structure. All the structure will be sometimes changed. So that is here happening due to the quantum confinement effect, quantum and size surface area ratio effects, and of the quantum. Thin film can be deposited under non-equilibrium conditions. This is the 4 states usually. Yeah, I can 5 states actually. The 5 states are usually happening for the thin film. First, we have a solid. Suppose we are depositing a copper aluminium layer by thermal evaporation. Keep in mind, I'm just trying to give you an example. We want to deposit. I will show you some videos, of course, after some time. That you can recall, remember this. If I want to deposit some aluminium thin film layer by thermal evaporation, what we will take? We will take we will take the solid of the aluminum powder, maybe foil, maybe pellet, whatever. That is solid. Then what we have to do? What we have to do? We have to melt it first. After melting, we have to vaporize it first. Then it will be vaporized. Once it is vaporized, let's consider water will be vaporized. Then if you put keep the wine above the water vapor, some glass or something else, then what happens? It will be deposited. Water will be deposited here. That is condensation will be happening. One condense for metals or some other materials or this type of materials, it will be solidified. So these 5 steps usually happen for any metal. Maybe something little bit different for the different types. Let's say for chemical method. Chemical method, it will be vapor, let's say ALD, atomic layer deposition. For ALD, it will be vapor first, then it will be react with the two materials, two chemicals, then it will be condensed and then solid. Some other cases, gas or vapor is purpose for the sputtering. This vapor will be created first, the plasma will be created, then it will be react with each other, condensation will be happen, and then solid. So these are the basic things for all the thin deposition process. So without these things, without this concept, we cannot go further. So that's why all the steps have a unique property, unique roles. If you miss or if you make something wrong in each step, that will be, you will not get the desired thin things. Or you will get the bulk thin things. You will get the big particles, not nanoparticles. So for that, we need to go for the no. We need to avoid the dust particle. As I told in the beginning, we need to know the cleaning of the substrate. But whenever if you keep some material, some water in your home, yourself, you keep on the table, and after some days, it will be some dust layer there. Or after some time, it will be dust will be there. So we cannot operate, we cannot do the experiment or this type of deposition or fabrication inside any room. We cannot do experiment inside any room. So that's why we need a specialized clean room. We need specialized clean. The clean room, what is this? This clean room or clean room is separate words also. It's an environment typically used in manufacturing or scientific research with a low level of environmental pollutants such as dust, airborne microbes, and chemicals. So that is usually fully clean. So it is in this room, every utensils, I can say, all the furnitures, all the walls, that will be not same as the whatever in your home. It should be different. Because if the wall is dirty, if wall will give you some contamination, dust particle, remove the dust particle, your room will be dirty. More accurately, a clean room has a controlled level of contamination. Contamination means some foreign particles, some foreign elements will be not there. That is specified by the number of particles per cubic meter at a specific particle. The ambient air outside in the urban environment contains 35 million particles per cubic meter in the size range of 0.5 micron and larger in diameter. So this dust particles will be, this dust particle is very big. People say 0.5 micron, it's a very big. So if you have one dust particle in your sample, in your substrate, you cannot get the some few nanometer device. So corresponding to an ISO 9 clean room, while an ISO 1 clean room allows no particles in the size range and only 12 particles per cubic meter of 0.3 micron and smaller. In the pharmaceutical industry, clean rooms play a crucial role in the manufacturing of pharmaceutical products, which are required to be free from microbial and particulate contamination and protected from the moisture. Nowadays, all of you know that this pandemic is going on. COVID-19 pandemic, all of us are very suffering. So in this page, that is what we want. People are lot of scientists, lot of engineers. They are working on the COVID SARS virus, SARS-CoV virus. So that should be when they are working on it. Definitely they are working on the clean room. Definitely they are working on the clean bench as well. However, they have to be protected, and this room should be protected from everything. Because if you one particle of one CoV virus came outside, that's why there should be several level of doors are there. Several level of doors are there. So whenever you will enter inside the room, you will be thoroughly cleaned by the air shower, and if you come outside the room, that time also you need to be thoroughly cleaned by the air shower. Clean room are classified according to the number of sizes of particles permitted per volume of air. Large number of like class 100 or class 1000 refer to the FPDA standard, and the number of particles of size 0.5 micron or larger permitted per cubic. So here I am showing the one table of this classification. You can see here in ISO 1, that is the cleanest room. ISO 1 is the cleanest room, and ISO 9 is the our air in your home, our home room air. Definitely this is room air, should be clean room air, our clean room. What clean room I can say? Maybe war will be matched with clean room. Our good room, good home, sweet home we can see. So here you can see in ISO 9, most of the particles are size of the 5 micron. That is our room size. There are a lot of particles. Number of particles is your 293,000. In our room, in bedrooms, in dining room, whatever, there 5 micron size particles are more than this one. It's a huge particle. However, one of the cleanest room, ISO 1, there this size of particles is not there, 0. 1 micron size also 0, 0.5 micron is 0. And when we can say this ISO 2 means the 0.5 micron size particles are 4 on. They are very few. And but this 0.1 micron size particle is your 100. So this number donates you the how many 0.1 micron size particles are there. That is your ISO 1. If this is 10 to the power 1, that is 1. 10 to the power 2, that is 2. 10 to the power 3, like that. After 10 to the power 6, that means there are a lot of particles. That is we are class ISO 7 or class 10,000. So these are the things. One is classified by the ISO 1, another one is the FPD-STD 209E. So these things we need to be keep in mind. Our usually rooms, bedrooms, or laboratory, whatever our usual laboratory, clean room laboratories, that is usually class 100. That is the medical purposes 1 and 2, which we can get very difficult to get. Difficult to maintain also. Very high, this much contamination restriction is very difficult to maintain. So that's why people are usually get class 5. Or in India, I don't know where is the class 10 is there. Well, in abroad, I have worked also worked in the class 3, class 1 and class 4 is the normal. Sorry, ISO 4 and ISO 1 is the normal. Yeah, this is the one of the images of the clean room. Whenever you will go to enter in the clean room, you have to equip with all the dresses. Here you can see this is the pool with your only eyes is there. That is also goggles. That is also this portion is also covered. So from your body also gives you some contamination. That is also we need to remove. There is some other rooms are there. This is one I told you, clean room, and there is one another room is your EOLO. Clean room, as I told, this is where number of particles very less, and dust particles should not be there. So all the clean deposition or fabrication for everything, measurement as well should be done in the clean room. Inside clean room, there is another room, whatever yesterday talk was there, that is cleaning procedure. You have to do some lithography procedure. Sarah will take some classes, some maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So these rooms, lithography and cleaning and other things, those things usually want another room inside the clean room. Here, inside clean room, there is another room that is called yellow room. Because we say yellow room because of the room is color is yellow, the light is yellow, light is yellow. That's why we are keeping yellow light inside the room, not white light. You may know, some of you already saw the photography films in the maybe 10 years back, 15 years back, 15, 20 years back, 15 years back, I can say. That time we usually use the photography film for the capturing the pictures. So this picture, once we capture the picture, we need to develop. This develop we can do usually in the only in the yellow room. If we expose it in the light, white light, this picture, all the speed will be gone. So that's why we need to be find the some particular wavelength of the light that will not affect this thing. So here also we are using some lithography process. That is, we are using the film also, similar type of things. So that's why this room color should not be white. Well, so that's why people are using yellow room. And definitely here also you have to equip with the full cover and full dress. Now thing is coming, we will go for deposition process. We will go for the deposition process. But for the deposition process, there is I will discuss mostly in the different types of physical process. Not different, most of the things I will not able to cover. Sorry, some of the important things which are available usually in India in almost all labs or easily can available. These instruments we will discuss. I will not discuss about too much about the very expensive one, which is instrument himself, it cost is your several hundred crores. So for that we need to know first thing of the physical process, physical deposition is the vacuum. Vacuum already all of you know. Vacuum means we need to extract the air from the some. Well, so these two vacuum is important, high vacuum and ultra high. For high vacuum, we can say it's about 10 to the power minus 6 torr is the high vacuum. Minimum we need 10 to the minus 6 torr. 1 torr equal to, this is the classical conversion. 1 millibar equal to 0.75 torr. 1 torr equal to 100 Pascal. So these are the simple classification. Very simple from the bar to torr or torr to Pascal or torr to Pascal, whatever it is. Bar to Pascal or whatever it is for us. Simple conversion. So for the deposition process, we are removing air from the chamber. Now chamber is the what is chamber now? I will tell you. I will show you some slides also. This chamber actually air is there. Definitely we are working on the clean room. Definitely we are working on the clean room. Still, this room contains some particles. As I told, we cannot make the chamber without any particles. That's particles. So there must be some particles. Well, so this particle is there. And another thing, our air contains several gases. Air has a major portion is the nitrogen, some portion is carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, a lot of hydrogen, other gases are there. Let's I want to deposit some aluminium into there. So once we deposit aluminium there, so once it will be first thing, suppose I am going for the thermal evaporation, it will be first melt, then it will be evaporate. During melting, if nitrogen is there, there is a possibility of the aluminium nitrate. Yeah, if there is a lot of oxygen is there, there is a possibility of the aluminum oxide or some other, because suppose I want to deposit titanium. Titanium, if you keep titanium foil or titanium substrate inside the air outside in your home, it will make oxidized. It will automatically oxidize. So it can absorb oxygen very quickly. So if we deposit in air, then what happens? It can be get mixture or get reacted with the air gases. This is one part. Another part is that if we deposit on the air, so its melting point will be very high. Suppose let's consider aluminum. I don't know exact value here. Aluminum may be 1000 or 1200, like that melting point. It's very high. We cannot melt this one. This mass temperature is very difficult to take. So to reduce the melting point, relative melting point, say we need to go for the air. So these two things are very, very important. So high vacuum is very essential. High vacuum is essential to get the good quality film. Good quality film means if you want aluminum film only, then you need to get for the good high vacuum. If you are aluminum, suppose aluminum nitrate, so you have to keep only nitrogen atmosphere, no other materials, no other gases. So this vacuum is very important. So that's why high vacuum is necessary. However, as I told you, there are three expensive instruments: MD, molecular epitaxy, and atomic layer deposition, ALD. So for there or some other electron beam evaporation, these are very expensive. So because of their expensive, because of the vacuum system is very, very good. We can go for the ultra high vacuums. Not only, whenever we go for the very contamination free, when we want to get almost zero contamination devices, that we will go for the ultra high vacuum. So this instrument, that's why naturally should be high expensive. So this vacuum technology we need to consider very well. To get the vacuum, there is one thing, the very simple form. We have to use we have to pump down the air from the chamber. So that is called vacuum pumps. Vacuum pumps are several types. Now, what is the very common one? That is rotary pump, diffusion pump, and turbo pump and cryo pump. These two are the rotary pump and diffusion pump is the very common one and almost cheaper than the all other. Rotary pump is the cheapest one, then diffusion pump, and turbo pump is the moderate pump, and cryo pump, and some other pumps are also there. I'm not considering because these things are not popular. To know, suppose we are pumping down. I'm pumping down from the chamber. I need to know is how much vacuum is created. Otherwise, how I can know we are pumping, but vacuum is not coming. The air is not going out. That's why I need to know. That's why we need to use the gauges. This gauges, that is called vacuum gauge. Three types of gauges are there. One is called Pirani gauge. That is usually used for the low vacuum. This low vacuum can be achieved using the rotary. I'm repeating it again. This low vacuum can be achieved using the rotary pump only. And this rotary pump vacuum can be measured using the Pirani. However, once after rotary pump achieves some level, that is up to 10 to the power minus 3 millibar, rotary pump can achieve maximum up to 10 to the power minus 3 millibar. He cannot go beyond this. To reach more than this vacuum, we need to use the either diffusion pump or turbo. To reach more than 10 to the power minus 3 millibar, we have to go. These are millibar. I'm sorry, these are the not megabar. It's a millibar. This should be the small one. I'm sorry. Yeah. To reach the beyond 10 to the power minus 3 millibar, we have to go for the diffusion pump. This is the oil pump. All the rotary pump and turbo diffusion pump, both are the oil-based. This oil-based pump has some drawbacks. I will tell you in the shortly in the after few slides. That's why people are going for the little bit expensive technically. That is target. That can be what operate in the from the natural nature to the, you can go for the high level. To measure the high vacuum, we need to use ion gauge. Ion pinning gauge, that is also that can be used for the high vacuum also, but that can be reached up to 10 to the power minus 6 millibar. However, ion gauge that can be used from the 10 to the power minus 2 millibar to 10 to the power minus 9 millibar. It's a long range. Well, so this is the design and this is the sir, madam, I will discuss with you. Please write your question. I will tell you after. Well, so this is the rotary pump. This is schematic diagram of the rotary pump. A rotary vane vacuum pump is an oil-sealed rotary displacement. The pumping system consists of a housing. This is a full housing, and essentially installed rotor. This is the installed rotor. This is installed rotor. This circle one is here. It can be rotated. I will show you. Installed rotor. Hence, this is the vane. This is the vane that can be rotated like that way. The move radially under centrifugal and Brazilian forces, and the inlet and outlet. This is inlet. This is outlet. This is inlet. This is outlet. Inlet valve is designed as a vacuum safety. This is a valve. Inlet valve. This is inlet valve. So what this is only air can come only. It cannot be go this side. Means oil can here because this is full of oil. This white portion is full of oil. So the otherwise oil will go up or it go into the inside the chamber. That's why this is a valve is there. Well, this is a working chamber. This is working chamber. Here it can be rotated. This is oil full of oil. The essentially installed rotor and vanes divide the working chamber into two separate compartments with variable volumes. As rotor turns, gas flows into the enlarging suction chamber until it is sealed off by the second. Well, enclosed gas is the compressed until the outlet valves open against atmospheric pressure. Outlet valve is oil sealed. This outlet valve, this is outlet valve is oil sealed. When the valve is open, a small amount of air. This is oil sealed actually. So when it will come like that, I will show you. This is go like that, and air will be passed to this. So it will pass. So after once passing, air will pass. Then it will be fill up with oil. So it cannot be air cannot be come outside the go inside the chamber from the outside. It was invented by Charles Behrens in 1874. Yeah, this is one of the important part. I think first we will show the video. Please go to the video. Yeah, can you able to hear the video sound? Can you able to hear the sound? Can you write in the chat box? Sound from the video? Yeah, I have some video that sound should be you need to hear. Can you write here in chat box? Can you able to see the sound? Hear the sound from the video? Am I audible to you? Am I audible to all of you? Can you please write in the chat box? Are you there? Can you all of you audible to me? Hello? Hello? I think I had a network issue. Am I audible now?
Audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Your voice is
Your voice is coming, sir.
Yeah, my screen is visible to you, sir?
no,
No,
sir, no.
sir.
Sorry, its network issue is there. That's why I'm going to see. My screen is visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
visible
sir.
now.
Yeah,
Now it is visible.
please check if video is running or not.
Yes, video is coming, sir.
Audio?
Audio not, sir.
Okay, it's fine. For this video, audio is not this.
Okay.
It's fine. Thank you. Sir, please go through the video first, then we will discuss myself. All of you, please kindly unmute yourself, mute yourself.
Okay, sir.
Well, let's explain this figure, this video. So this is the actually whatever I showed in the schematic one. This is the vein. This is inlet. So when we are connected with this portion with the chamber, this green portion with the chamber, this portion, and I think you can see my cursor. Well, so once this is chamber is connected here, I think my cursor is visible to you, right?
Yes, sir.
So this chamber is connected. So air is sucking. Means whenever is this vein is rotating, this portion is rotating. So it will. This is oil. This green portion is oil. Sorry, this green portion is air. So it will taking this oil as well as air this side. So when it is extracting, this portion is low air pressure. So automatically from the chamber, air is coming here and it will be coming, rotating that way, and he will removing this way. After removing this air this side, so each portion will be covered with the oil, sealed with the oil. That is called oil seal. Let's see also. After removing this air, it will be sealed with the again this oil. So that's why oil seal. So by this way, it is moving, rotating. It can extracting the vacuum from the air from the chamber. So this oil has some properties. This oil has some property, because any oil cannot be operated. This pump oil operational fluid has multiple tasks to perform in the rotary engine. Because after if you rotating, its temperature will be increases. So that's why first part is that this should be have low vapor pressure even at high pressure. And this should be, as I told, this is sealing by the oil. This is oil seal. This portion, this outlet will be sealed by the oil. That's why this should be very good, excellent lubricating. And this should be low oil backflow, excellent resistance of the aging. Because after we don't want it should be changed every month or every years. So that's why it should be aging property should be excellent, resistance to breakdown, and minimum oxidation. It should not be oxidized. Well, these are the few points when you are choosing the rotary oil. It's already silicone oil is already fixed. So the oil diffusion pump. This is after rotary vacuum, we can go up to 10 to the minus 3 milliliter, as I told in the few minutes back. So once we reach to the 10 to the minus 3 milliliter, then we will start switch on the diffusion. So this diffusion pump we can start. Keep in mind, we cannot start from the normal patient. Okay, that's why we need to go, at least we need to create raw vacuum from the rotary, using the rotary. So this oil diffusion pump, that is usually oil is there inside the, I will show you the some schematic as well as that video. The oil diffusion pump is operated with an oil of low vapor pressure. This purpose you have to use it is used for the for the higher vacuum and lower pressure. That is lower pressure. Although it is used for the associated with the high vacuum rate, 10 to the minus 9 millibar, but usually it's very difficult to 10 to the minus 10 millibar. That can be achieved if we make proper cooling on the system and we use the proper fluids, that is proper oil. And of course, chamber. If we do the baking on the chamber and we cool the chamber properly, as well as cool the pump, diffusion pump properly, we can achieve up to 10 to the minus 10 milliliter. But it's very difficult, definitely very difficult. And it's not very difficult, easy to get it also 10 to the minus 9 milliliter. We can achieve very easily up to 10 to the minus 6 milliliter, minus 7 milliliter. But beyond this, it is very difficult. The features that makes the diffusion pump attractive for high and ultra high vacuum use are its high pumping speed for all gases and low cost per unit pumping speed when compared with the other pumps in the same vacuum. Diffusion pump cannot discharge into the air, into the air from the atmosphere. So a mechanical core pump, that is whatever I told you, a mechanical pump or rotary pump is typically used up to at least you have to go up to 10 to the power minus 1 or minus 2 milliliter. Minimum. You cannot charge or you cannot on discharge or start the diffusion pump from the atmosphere. If you start, it may work, it will work, I can say, or we can say, but it will be damage your pump. Your oil will be inside the diffusion pump will be contaminated because it will be oxidized, and that will be decrease the efficiency of the diffusion. So that's why you cannot discharge. You have to go at least as much as possible the rotary vacuum. If your rotary pump is not good enough, you can go up to 10 to the power minus 1 millibar or 2 minus 2 millibar. Then you can start the diffusion. So diffusion pump has several parts, as I told you, as I want to say. This is actually schematic of the, or some pictures of the diffusion. Some of you not see, I don't know. Maybe you have not seen before. This is why I'm showing here. This is the simple structure or simple figures of the actual figures of the diffusion pump. And this is the schematic one. So this is the portion where you will connect with the rotary. this portion, this one, user will connect with the rotary. Diffusion pump himself cannot work. I repeat once again. Diffusion pump himself cannot work. It must be connected with the rotary. It must be connected with the rotary. Without rotary pump, diffusion pump cannot run, cannot work. And this is the portion here in which your chamber is coming. This is the portion here your chamber is coming. I don't have this schematic. Here actually one valve is there. The chamber is connected directly with the rotary pump. If you move the valve, change the valve, then chamber sometimes connected with the rotary pump directly, and after moving the valve, chamber will be connected with the diffusion pump, rotary pump through the diffusion pump. Chamber will be connected through the diffusion pump with the rotary pump. Two things are there. At the beginning, the chamber will be connected directly with the rotary pump. That is one valve is there, that's why. And then that time we will create up to 10 to the power minus 2 millibar or 10 to the power minus 3 millibar. Then after creating minus 3 millibar, we will close the valve and we will open this line path between the diffusion pump and rotary pump. And that time chamber will be vacuum with the through the diffusion pump. So diffusion pump is not a pump actually. It's a pump, but it's not a pump. It cannot pump act himself. It actually needs at least some pump to work, operate. Well, so there, this is no engine is there, so it cannot be served. But this mechanism can serve. Okay. So this is the diffusion pump schematic. So there actually a jet is there. This is oil, full of oil, and here is the one heater is. The oil is your diffusion oil, usually silicone oil, and this silicone is not same as the rotary oil. Both of the oil is different. So this oil will be vapor heated. This is heater is there. One heater is there. Very good high heating, just normal heater in your home, whatever heater people are using fast. So this type of simple heater is there, and this can heat the oil here, whatever is oil. This blue line, yeah, greenish line. This is your oil is there. This oil will be vapor. Once the oil is vapor, this is actually pump connected here. Your rotary pump is connected here. So this rotary pump is pumping, and this oil is vapor. So this oil vapor, which once it is vapor, it will be goes out. It will go upward direction. So once it is upward direction, it will go out upward direction, and here your chamber is connected at the top. So oil is when it is going up, there is some jet is there. That is called jet. And this jet, outside the jet, this chamber of the scene of the pump, diffusion pump, that is cooled with the cooled oil, chilled oil. Chilled water. This is covered with the chilled water or sometimes chilled liquid nitrogen also put. So to this, all the pump with the cover with the flowing is covering or flowing chilled water outside, and all chilled liquid nitrogen is very cold. So then what happened? So this oil is going upward direction. From here is air is coming from the pump chamber, and this vapor and air mixed each other, and they will be coming outside, coming through the jet very forcefully. And once it is coming outside very force, so it is strike on the wall of the diffusion pump. This wall is very cold, and then once it is cold, this wall is separated the water vapor, sorry, air and oil vapor. The oil vapor comes down, and the air will be sucked down from this. So I am showing some video here. You can see from here. Well, so I am just explaining once again this video. This is your heater, as I already written here. The heater is the heating, this oil is here. This oil is vaporizing, and these are the jets. So from here, air particles are coming. Airs are coming from the air because it's sucking from the vacuum pump. So once they are coming, this outside oil, outside wall is very cold using the water or liquid nitrogen. So this oil is separated and this air particle is coming, going through this. It's very simple. So without this vacuum pump, it cannot be definitely work. So another pump, that is what I told, which is little bit expensive definitely, is turbomolecular pump. This oil vapor pump, whatever diffusion pump and oil vapor pump, it has some problem. Major problem is there. This oil is vaporized. So it may sometimes what happen, power is off, or sometimes oil vapor goes inside the chamber. Some contamination may arise. We cannot get very clean chamber right for this. So to avoid this oil contamination, as well as if we want to achieve the high vacuum, we cannot go, as I told you, it's very difficult to put a -9 millibar or -10 millibar. But however, if our desirable is 10 to the -10 millibar or so. So in that case, we will use usually turbo pump. It can be work from the atmosphere also, but better it should not work in the atmosphere. It can be work on the from 10 to the -2 or 10 to the -3 millibar after getting the raw vacuum from the rotary pump. Here, this is the pump actually. This is not a like that we need supportive pump from the like diffusion pump. We need supportive pump of the rotary pump. Here, that is only this pump can pump from that. So here a lot of blades are turbine blades are. They are placed in the opposite direction. You can see this schematic figure. These are lines are the blades. These are the lines are the blades. They are placed in opposite. You can see these blades are coming this direction. Well, so so this is there. These blades are like that way, this direction. These blades are this direction. So opposite direction they kept usually. These are called the stator blades and turbine blades. One is called stator blade, one is your fixed, another one is your turbine blade rotating. So this is another backing pump is there. Once you reach the rough vacuum up to 10 to the -2 millibar or 10 to the -3 millibar, then you can switch off this switch on the rotary pump, sorry, turbo pump, turbomolecular pump or turbo pump. Then you can switch off the backing pump rotary. You can. Okay, so this is I can show you here once again. Some video is there. Okay. Yeah, first day we get the rough vacuum. That's the first we see. Then I will see. Well, I think this is good enough. Nice. Let's start. So first we will create the vacuum with the rough vacuum using the rotary pump. Then we will start the switch on the turbomolecular pump or on the simple turbo. So this is the chamber is connected here. The chamber is connected here, or maybe this is maybe your chamber. That does not matter. Now this is your chamber. This chamber, this is your turbo pump. So it contains. This constant stator blade. This blade is fixed, and this is rotor blade. That one is the rotor blade. So once the rotor blade is coming, its opposite direction is placed, and this are sucking the air from the chamber in a high speed because it's rotating in a very high speed. It is about several thousand, 10,000, 20,000 RPM or more than this one, several thousand RPM. So once it is very high speed, the particle will come inside and it will be rotate like that way. It will be go outside the chamber. So by this way, it will be getting the vacuum. That's why there are no chance of the oil contamination or nothing you can do. So another pump is here, that is what I told you, cryo pumps. This cryo himself name says are a cryogenic temperature. So this is not very popular also, but this is usually used for molecular beam epitaxy usually. Here we can go up to 10 to the power minus 9 torque. And it can be work also from atmosphere. And thing is that from cryo pump you can get very clean pump. Means it can be clean the chamber. We will get very contaminated. We will get well thin. There's no contamination at all. So that's why for atomic layer deposition or not atomic layer deposition, for epitaxial deposition, and these things we need cryo pump. Usually people are prefer the cryo. I'm not going to this one, these details. Yeah, this is cryogenic temperature. You can this is the pump. It's working like that way. And because this is not very popular and very expensive, so that's why we are not considering this. Well, so now this is whatever I told you. That, after creating vacuum, we need to know the gauges. This Pirani gauges. This is called thermal conductivity gauge or Pirani gauge. So this is measured for the rotary pump, rotary vacuum, or this can be measured up to maximum 10 to the power minus 4 millimeter. This can be measured up to 10 to the power minus 4 millimeter. So once you get the raw vacuum using the rotary pump, you can measure using this gauging. However, after switching on your diffusion pump or turbo pump or cryo pump, in that case you have to go cold cathode ionization gauge. That is also known as penning gauge. That is also called the gas discharge gauge. This one. This can be measured up to 10 to the power minus 3 to minus 9 milliwatt. 10 to the power minus 3 milliwatt to 10 to the power minus 9 milliwatt. So to measure the high vacuum, we need to switch on the penning gauge. Keep in mind, usually now it is protected, of course. Previously, if you switch on the cold cathode ionization gauge at low pressure, means rough vacuum, it may be damaged. That's why it is recommended not to switch on the penning gauge or cold cathode ionization gauge if you are not sure about the high vacuum. So better check the vacuum first using the Pirani gauge, then you switch on the penning gauge. This is also another gauge, that is hot cathode ionization gauge. Most of the instruments nowadays coming with this one. It will be expensive definitely. That is quite similar to the vacuum cryo concept. That can be measured for the high vacuum volume, and that can be measured up to minus 12 milliwatt. Here we are in penning gauge. We can this cold cathode. This is cold cathode, and this is hot cathode. This can be measured up to 10 to the power minus 9, and this one can be measured up to 10 to the power minus 12 milliwatt. Here is the that is the epitaxial. Here, if you also switch on, that will be damage your filaments. So that's why it is recommended don't use these high vacuum gauges at low temperature. I think we will stop here now. We will give you the question now, and if you have any question, you people ask. And next class we will go for the deposition. Please, already I think people are unmuted. If people can unmute yourself, yeah. If people can unmute yourself, and please, if you have any query, please ask. Someone has a question. I think I'm sharing the. Sharing the question for this question. Someone asked me some question. Are you there? Someone asked me question in the between the talk. Are you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Subhasri Panda, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, why yellow light is only used? Why not orange or red? Yeah, red can be used. Red light can be used. Red light people are using also because yeah, definitely red light also used. And orange I have not seen. People prefer either red or yellow. I don't know why yellow. Red also used. I also see, but I don't know why yellow actually.
Yeah. Actually, the wavelength of red and orange is greater than yellow. So, and
Maybe
photo
I don't know actually why not orange. Maybe this type of light is not available in the market, commercial market. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. But usually people use either yellow or red.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any question?
Sir, I am Narayan.
Yeah.
Sir, what industry still we are using this MB for crystal?
Your voice is breaking.
Still now we are in the industry. The MB technique is used for this.
For industry purposes, this is a very good question. Definitely. Which one people are prefer? People are prefer, industry people are prefer thermal evaporation, mostly not, they are not using. They use electron beam evaporation. And for deposition, sputtering is the best one. And depend on the material, foremost thing is that depend on the material, which material you want to use. If you want to deposit some material that would be good for a few, suppose hafnium oxide, I want to deposit. So in that case, we like to prefer either sputtering or ALD. If I want hafnium oxide, very good quality, that time we will go for the sputtering. Okay, sorry, ALD. If we want hafnium oxide, maybe little bit amorphous type. In that case, we will go for the sputtering. Depend on the what use, where you will use your PM or device. Based on this one, you will use. There are no limitation, no restriction like that. You cannot say, or no one can say like that. This is the best one. Okay. And definitely when you are there fabricating any device, that time we need to consider the cost. Cost is the major issue, main consideration. And definitely quality first, then quality. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. If any questions anyone have, please tell me. You can unmute yourself and please. And I also already shared the question answer set. Please answer the question. Well, if there are no questions, we are closing this session now. We will meet at 3 p.m. right? Professor Som sir is there, Professor Som sir. So we are closing this session now. If there are no questions, right? Okay. Thank you all. See you. Thank you all. See you all at 3 p.m. I'm ending session for all. All of you, please give your feedback, question answer, because it will be closed after half an hour. Automatically, it will be closed.